Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol and welcome to Cycle Sunday. Now then guys, welcome back to Cycle Sunday. I am here again at Criterium Cycles in Edinburgh. Paul, welcome back my friend.
Thank you very much indeed.
Now then, hopefully by now you've tuned in to the previous 2 episodes of Cycle Sunday and you will know what we are up to. We are building my dream road bike.
And having a lot of fun doing it.
It's great fun. It's like kid in a candy shop. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So much carbon fibre and bling. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we have already chosen the frame size.
We have.
We've chosen the
frame.
Bike itself.
Yeah.
So we're going for a Bianchi
Oltre
XR4 in Celeste blue.
Yes.
Very, very cool. And we've also done a video around what I didn't realise was how important was basically selecting the right shoe,
Yes.
the right cleat system and the right pedal, and how that is the datum for what we're about to do.
Indeed.
And in the last video we talked about the basics of a bike fit, but today we're getting on the jig and we're doing a proper bike fit.
We are.
Now, this is a long process. It's like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So clearly we're not going to make this video 2 hours long.
Yeah.
So there are a few shortcuts, a few things. So the first thing we've done already is we've taken my lovely new shoes, which are just awesome.
And incidentally,
yes.
match your outfit.
I know,
perfectly.
It was a complete... So I'm obviously in full-on Lycra and very proudly wearing my Club des Sangles du Mont Ventoux shirt, which you have to get one of these, you have to cycle at Mont Ventoux 3 times in a day.
Well done.
Yeah, I know, it was an epic day on the bike. So we've taken the shoe and we've already fitted the cleat.
Yep.
Now, when I fitted the cleats on my current shoes, I basically went, yeah, square, and then screwed them on. Oh, wow, how wrong I was.
It's an option.
Yeah, so we've basically, I'll put some B-roll over now. We've measured where the metatarsal bone is, so that's this bone here, and we've measured where the cleat is in relation to that, and also looked at where my feet stand naturally as I'm stood up.
Your natural foot gait, we've done the rotation, we've done the lateral movement of it.
It's like 20 minutes, half an hour just to get the cleat in the right place.
Yeah.
But they are now in the right place.
Yes.
Which is most excellent.
Yeah.
And now the next thing we're going to do is handlebars.
We are.
Bar width.
We are, yes. Because before we get onto the jig, as we've said previously, it's absolutely imperative that the things that are going to go, the contact points that are going to go onto the bike are measured correctly, otherwise it's not a proper fit.
Yeah.
So the saddle that's going to be going onto the bike is fitted to the jig. The pedals that's going to be going onto the bike is fitted to the jig.
They're on already.
They're on already. The shoes, they're going to be fitted to your feet. So those datum points are correct. And the final piece to that puzzle is the handlebar.
Right, so the other thing to point out, up until now, we have been able to maintain a social distance in COVID times, and we're following very strict COVID guidelines making these videos, otherwise we wouldn't be allowed to make them in the first place. Sadly though, with this particular video, we are going to have to come into closer contact. So it's masks on, people, and if you've got a problem with that, it's your problem, not ours, basically. If I was a customer coming into your shop, I would have to wear one of these to be able to have a bike fit.
Yeah, we really care.
Yeah. So it's super important, so we will be wearing masks, but I think everybody understands that now. Indeed. So let's have a chat about handlebars.
Indeed.
Okay, so the actual selection process, we've done some work off camera already in terms of the bars. We know the bars that are right for me, but what we wanted to do was demonstrate on camera a bar that's too wide, a bar that's too narrow, and a Goldilocks bar which is just right.
Yes.
So shall we start too wide?
Yeah. So
because this is actually the width of the bar that I've got on my current bike.
That's correct. That's correct. And what we're looking at here is the width of the end of the clavicle, which is this bone here, and where the centre line of the wrist is. We can see that this is much further out. So Peter at the moment is A-framing. So we've got an A-frame position. So after on a longer ride, what's going to happen is that this little muscle group here is going to start fatiguing, and the torso is going to start falling through the shoulders, and it's going to put more pressure up into the neck.
Yeah.
And making it very, very uncomfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're too wide.
They're too wide.
Okay. Now we've got too narrow.
Yeah. So
this is like...
Yeah. Yeah.
It instantly feels wrong.
Far too narrow. And in terms of what you're feeling right now, it will feel constrictive in the chest. You won't feel as though you can open the chest. Just not correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the size we've gone for, and we've even got the hoods ready to go on the jig on this one.
Yeah. So again, what we're looking at is we've got the wrist nicely centered into the hood part here, which is measured up nicely with the clavicle. Fundamentally though, how does that feel?
It feels spot on.
Yeah.
Absolutely spot on.
Should feel natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess, like you were saying to me before, it's worth noting that different manufacturers measure bars in different ways.
They do.
And these aren't the bars that are going on the bike, but you know how to convert these measurements into the measurements of the bar we need to go on the bike.
Absolutely.
But this is what goes on your jig.
That's what goes on the jig.
Okay, so before I put my shoes on, what Paul's got to do now, apart from putting the handlebars on the bike, is he's put my measurements and the bike frame size into the computer, and the computer has given him a basic setup for this incredible jig, which looks like it costs lots of money. But I guess it's important to say, you were saying before, you don't if you haven't got a jig like this, it doesn't mean you can't do a bike fit. A lot of places will do a bike fit on your bike on a turbo trainer.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's what happened when I did mine with my Venge.
And it's what happened here for 6 years before we were in a privileged position to buy one.
Exactly.
Yes.
But the advantage that this jig has is that Paul can make adjustments in real time, and I'll be able to feel those. So the whole process we're about to go through is quite a lengthy one. So we're going to try and summarize it without dumbing it down, because there's some really interesting stuff goes on. The first thing we're going to look at is effectively, if you like, setting up the bike from my hips downwards. And if you saw the previous video, we talked a little bit about this. So that's going to include the seat position in terms of height, in terms of fore and aft position, and also in terms of its position above the cranks down there. So that should get, and actually the crank length as well, that should get this bottom half of my body. Oh, mate, that's just too cool. Should get the bottom half of my body just set up perfectly, and then we can work on the front end of the bike in terms of handlebar height and reach, and that's really dealing with the top part of my body. So Paul's just dialing everything in, and then once we get on the bike, we can start to see if this, if you like, generic basic setup is right for me. Is that saddle doesn't look high enough? Surely.
It's not. And if anybody wants to know if Peter's got long legs or not, this was a normal person.
A normal person?
Who was fitted last time.
Okay.
Everybody just watch what happens when we fit for Peter.
That's quite high. Right then, I'm going to get my shoes on and then we'll get on this bike. Be all right, that.
Yeah. And now what we're finally doing is we're setting up the crank arm length to a nice neutral setting to where we feel it's going to be a good start point.
Because ultimately, at the end of this process, once you've fitted that so that I feel great on the bike, you then feed those measurements back into the computer, and it tells you what the crank arm I need to have ordered for the bike, the correct specification for the handlebars. You know, the bike builder will know how high the seat needs to go and everything, so that's it. It's ready for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
because
we'll put all of those.
I guess we can't stick my bike on a turbo trainer because it's in that box.
It's in the box. and more than that, it's because it's not off the peg. So if we had a bike on our shelf at the moment that we felt was going to be appropriate for you, We can then put it on the turbo trainer. You can be pedaling that bike and we can make adjustments for it, no problem at all. But because we're actually building this bike from the components up, we do need to go through this process to make sure we're ordering the correct components for your fit.
Yeah. Right then, ready to mount up?
Ready to get on, ready to get on.
So I'm guessing just foot into this cleat here.
As you normally clip in.
And then hoist up. Bad news, mate. I tell you now, I don't think this saddle's high enough, you know.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Even without spinning a crank.
No, you're absolutely right. So what we're looking to do is we need to get you fitted now. So what we did off camera was we did a couple of flexibility tests with Peter, because a saddle height for an individual is very, very much based on an individual's flexibility. And it's a constantly moving target. So there's a couple of things that we need to understand first of all. Number one is where your actual maximum leg extension comes into effect. And a lot of folk thinks that their maximum leg extension is when the crank arm is vertical. It's not, that's actually on the way back up to the top again. Your maximum leg extension comes when the crank arm is in line with the seat post of the bike. And that means that the greater trochanter, which is the centre of the hip socket, is at the furthest distance from the centre of the pedal spindle. So that is our maximum leg extension at that point. It's also important to note the correct foot position, because we're riding a bike, not a horse.
Mate, see, I spent 10 years competing at horse riding, and I was constantly being told to get my heels down.
Absolutely. On a bike, opposite way.
Oh, right, okay.
We need your foot position to be as if you're sort of walking on a 2-inch heel. That's the best way of thinking about it.
Okay.
So with us understanding where our foot and our crank arm is at our maximum leg extension, I can now look at your knee angle that we've got at the moment, and we are not utilising your maximum leg extension based on your flexibility that we did earlier. So we do need to start upping that saddle height. So if you want to start pedalling...
Can't we just save myself a bit of time? I know that all you do is you put your heel on the pedal and you straighten your leg.
Yeah, about 20, 30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you don't mind, we'll do it properly.
Okay,
yeah.
Right. So I start pedalling.
Start pedalling. Just on the tablet here, Peter, the upward arrow is for your gears.
Oh, cool.
So at this moment in time...
I did nearly go for those, but...
Yeah, they're not connected to anything. So so if you just start pressing the up arrow, and you'll start feeling resistance.
Oh, wow, yeah.
You are not on a workout. I don't want you puffing and panting.
Thank goodness.
I don't want you sweating. All I basically need for you to be is in a nice natural pedal cadence that you feel I could do this all day.
How many watts do you want?
About 600-700.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, or maybe 130. So coming round to the back, what I'm looking for at this moment in time is basically the pelvis and how stable the pelvis is. And if we put our hands just on top of the iliac crest, which is this part of the pelvis just here, what I'm actually feeling is that as you're going over the top of the pedal stroke at the moment, this side, the right hand side, is actually pushing over the top of the pedal stroke. It's pushing the pelvis up the way. We're getting no pull down on either side, but what it's saying to me is the saddle is too low, because as you're going over the top of the pedal stroke, the hip flexor here is running out of range of motion and is then basically pushing the pelvis up. And what will happen over time is your knee will probably start rolling out slightly, and that's where we see a lot of people going down the roads looking like they've got frog's legs, is the saddle is just way too low. So what we're going to do is we're going to start increasing the saddle height. So we're going to do that first of all by around sort of 10 millimeters to here.
Ooh,
and now what I can feel is that push has gone. It feels a lot more neutral. How does that feel to you?
Loads better.
Loads better, perfect. But most important, I think it's great for a rider to understand how it feels when the saddle is too high. Because if you don't feel what it's like to be wrong, then you can ride along causing yourself a real injury. So I'm going to crank this up, what I know to be overextended by about 10 millimeters.
Already, I can feel it now.
You already feel it, so I'm not going to do it any further. And the first telltale sign is you do feel a lot more saddle pressure because the pelvis is being brought down over the side of the saddle. But if I put my hands on top of the iliac crest here, I can feel particularly on the left-hand side that the pelvis is being brought down as Peter's going to his maximum leg extension on the downstroke. So what I can do is I can start dialing that back down again, bit by bit, and we're just going to double check. That's feeling more neutral, but we've still got a little bit of pull on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to dial that back down again, just a couple more millimeters. That's starting to feel more neutral, but there's a little bit of pull still there. And now that pull's basically gone.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
That feels really good.
Brilliant.
Really, really good.
Yeah. So in terms of saddle height, that is where we're going to start with.
Yeah.
And the next thing that we need to do, if you can stop pedalling, please, Peter, and I want you to finish with your left leg in the 3 o'clock position.
Yeah.
You'll notice how the spirit levels...
Hey, you've got spirit levels on your
We've got
cranks,
spirit
mate.
levels. Just get those so that it is at a good 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And now what I've got to do is I've just got to go and grab my laser.
Laser?
Laser. And with my laser, what we're going to do is put the laser line directly through the centre line of the pedal spindle. So we've got the laser line directly through the centre line of the pedal spindle. Now you'll see that Peter has been a very naughty boy here. He's dropped his heel down, so that's absolutely perfect. And we're just going to make sure that that crank arm is at 90 degrees. I'm just going to double check the laser line. And we're not too far away. What I'm looking for is this vertical line and just the underside of the patella, which is this zone just here. I'm wanting to make sure that that laser line is absolutely in line here. So as we bisect a line through here, that's going through the centre line of the knee joint and going through the centre line of the pedal spindle. And that's ensuring that at that main drive point at the 3 o'clock point of the pedal rotation, that the knee is punching straight through the centre line of the pedal spindle. It is the most efficient place.
Yeah.
So I just want your saddle to go slightly further back, just a couple of millimeters, and there we go. We've now got that knee line absolutely perfect with the pedal spindle. So if you would just kindly start pedaling again. How's that feeling?
Not quite right.
Not quite right. Do we know why that is?
Feels like the saddle's too low.
Feels like the saddle's a little bit too low for you still.
Yeah.
Perfect, right. Part of the reason for that is that as we're making adjustment to the fore and aft, because your effective angle of the seat tube is angled back the way, making adjustments forwards and backwards can also affect saddle height. So what we'll do, I'll go round to the back again and let's have a look. So putting the hands on top of the iliac crest, I'm not feeling any pull whatsoever. I'm just going to add a couple more millimeters of saddle height. How's that feeling?
Yeah, good. Really good.
Perfect. Excellent stuff. So I'm not feeling any pull whatsoever from the pelvis there, and that's looking really, really nice.
Cool.
So the final step to the saddle, we've done saddle height, we've done saddle fore and aft, is saddle pitch. Now I always set the saddle absolutely flat at 0 degrees as a start point. The saddle is coming, the pelvis is coming into contact with the saddle in two fundamental places: the sit bone, or the ischial tuberosity, and the pubic rami, which is the frontal bones. What I'm looking for is an equal distribution of pressure across the front and rear of your points of contact with the saddle.
Yeah.
If it's feeling good,
Yeah.
front to back, we don't change it.
Yeah.
If you're feeling more frontal pressure, we want to just drop the nose down slightly, up to a maximum of about 3 degrees.
Yeah.
If you're feeling too much pressure on the sit bone, then again we want to alleviate a little bit of the pressure from the front.
Yeah. Feels good.
Feels good. So fundamentally, from the hip down,
Yeah.
saddle height, fore and aft, saddle pitch, we're done. So now what we need to do is we now need to move to the front end of the bike, and based on those positions, we now need to get your back angle correct, we need to get the pressure coming in through the hands, neck and shoulders, get your core stability set up, and then we're good to transfer the information over to the computer.
Awesome. So that seat feels wicked.
Brilliant, that is absolutely fantastic. That's really, really great to know. So, as we've already said, from the hip down, we're sorted.
Yep.
We now need to sort the front end of the bike, and the most important thing is the actual handlebar height.
Yeah.
Now, the Jig's default settings is set to have 30 millimeters of spacers underneath the handlebar stem.
Because this bike has the coolest handlebars and cockpit ever.
It's amazing.
It's a thing of beauty.
It is absolutely
Because all the cables are integrated.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
Yeah.
However, that means you really have to get it right.
Yes. Yeah, because we want to build this bike once.
Yeah.
So it's important that we do go through this fit process when a bike has got an integrated front end, so that the technician who's building it, rather than just sending it out the easy way with 30 mm of spacers underneath, let's get it to the right handlebar height, particularly when we're dealing with people who have got a good cycling experience already. Mm-hmm. If somebody's new and just wanting to buy an uber high-end bike, yeah, we might send it out with 30 mm of spacers, because once we've trimmed it, I can't put it back on again.
No.
Now, it's important from a fitter's perspective to know that those 30 mm of spacers is made up by 3 10 mm spacers.
Okay.
So there's no point me dropping the handlebars by 2 mm and saying, how does that feel, Pete?
Yeah.
Because I can't fit you to that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I've got to do it in 10 mm increments.
Yeah.
So what does dropping the handlebar actually mean? What's basically happening is that a lot of people, when they're riding a bike, the first thing that they say is, ooh, I feel weight coming in my hands. So what do we want to do, Pete?
Raise the handlebars.
Raise the handlebars.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't always work like that.
Yeah.
In some instances, it might. But a lot of the time, it's because we're not recruiting the core stability that you have. So your hands, neck and shoulders is taking all of the torso weight that's pivoting from in front of the hip.
Yeah.
So by dropping the handlebar down, what that's going to do is it's going to bring the torso down, it's going to engage the core muscles better and take pressure off the handlebar, off the hands, neck and shoulders.
Which is so counterintuitive.
Really counterintuitive.
Yeah.
However, we've got to be really careful, because if we just drop the torso down willy-nilly, mm-hmm. and you don't have the hip flexibility to bring your femur up into this new space that we've created,
Yeah.
what's going to happen is that it's going to feel tight and uncomfortable in the hip.
Yeah. What about my beer belly?
Well, you haven't really got one, fortunately.
Mate, you can come on the channel anytime you like.
Well, that's what I was hoping. But no, look, you're in good shape, you know, particularly for your age.
Oh! I was cutting, that was.
So, what we're going to do at this moment in time, I'm looking at your back position, I'm looking at your shoulder position, I'm looking at your arm extension and your elbow relaxation. Mm-hmm. And actually, it's looking pretty good.
Okay.
Out the box. But again, I ask you the question, you've got enough miles in your legs now. How does it feel?
It feels quite heavy on my hands.
Feels a little bit heavy on your hands.
Yeah.
Really interesting. So what I'm going to do is the first thing is drop it by 10 millimeters.
Yeah.
But I'm not just going to drop it whilst you're riding.
Yeah.
I want you to recall how that feels at the moment. I want you to sit up.
Okay.
Okay? Perfect. I'm now going to drop it by 10 mil. There we go. So that's a 10 mil drop.
Yeah.
Now what I want you to do is just relax the shoulders. I want you to just drop down into the hoods and tell me how that feels.
That doesn't feel as heavy.
No.
That's weird.
No. And what I'm seeing as well, I'm seeing a much more relaxed shoulder. I'm seeing less pressure in your elbows because we've got good core recruitment.
Yeah.
Sit back up again. I'm going to drop it by another 10.
And I'm more aero.
Let's put that to one side, okay? Let's focus on the fit based on being biomechanically correct, as opposed to focusing on aero.
Okay.
Drop back down again.
No, this really shouldn't.
How's that feeling?
That's less heavy than
it was before.
That shouldn't work.
No.
Now the question is whether this is nicer than the medium or the middle setting.
Indeed. So what I need to do now, because for 10 minutes on the turbo trainer, it might feel good.
Yeah.
But an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours in, how's that then going to feel?
Yeah.
And I've got to always remember who I'm fitting.
Yeah.
I'm fitting a rider who likes to do longer endurance rides.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is when your core does end up fatiguing and collapsing, then it is going to be your hands, neck and shoulders and lower back that's going to take up that weight and that load of your torso.
Yeah.
So I've got to make sure that I'm keeping in mind's eye not what it feels like after 5 minutes on the turbo, but who you are as a rider as well.
Yeah.
The other thing that I want to check now, because I've also noticed that your body is starting to move around on the saddle a little bit more.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because we are now running out of hip flexion. So the torso's come down so far now that you going over the top of the pedal stroke is now getting to a point where you're bobbing around on the saddle.
Yeah.
So your saddle pressure and saddle comfort might have deteriorated a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you start thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I've got two options. Number one, I can sit you back up and raise a handlebar by 10 millimeters.
Yeah.
Okay. Call it a day because that's easy.
Yeah.
Or I could even look at crank arm length.
Ooh.
How's that going to affect you? Well, your crank arm at the moment is set at 172.5 millimeters.
Okay.
If I drop your crank arm length down to 170 millimeters, it means that I can raise your saddle because your foot at the bottom of your leg extension, so at the bottom of its downstroke, is now 2.5 millimeters higher.
Because the crank's shorter.
Because the crank's shorter, which means I can bring your saddle up by 2.5 millimeters.
Yeah.
But don't forget that your crank now going over the top of the pedal stroke is 2.5 millimeters lower.
Okay.
So ultimately, it's going to relieve 5 millimeters of saddle height in your over the top of the pedal stroke.
Yeah.
So we could keep your hands at this height if it's feeling good, and let's do a crank arm adjustment and see if we can get rid of that bobbing around on the saddle because of your hip flexion and keep the saddle height the same.
Wow. Okay.
It's a real jigsaw.
Yeah.
The other thing that the people will have noticed as well is that a 2.5 millimeter shorter crank length,
it
also means that at the 3 o'clock position,
oh my God, Right.
your knee-over-spindle's going to change.
Yeah.
So we need to adjust not only saddle height, but also knee-over-spindle.
Oh, wow.
Let's get that done.
Okay.
So it's important that, you know, we do this, and, you know, these are the things that you don't see on camera, guys, is the fact that once we made an adjustment, Pete actually has to ride the bike for a good 20 minutes off camera, you're fortunate to hear, just to validate this fit setting. And this is the important side of fit.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make those, I'm going to get you off the bike now. I'm going to do those crank arm changes, and then you're going to join us again, back on the bike and feeling what those results are.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So I've now been on this bike for about 20 minutes, I suppose.
About 20 minutes, yeah.
And what we've done, we've shortened the cranks, only 2.5 mil.
Yeah.
Now instantly the engineer in me went, hold on a minute, you've reduced the pivot point, the lever.
Yep. Yeah.
But then he quietly said, you know, for someone at my level, it really doesn't make a huge amount of difference.
I just think it's important to focus more on the fit and what it's going to do to your biomechanics, as opposed to 2.5 millimeters of mechanical advantage. Yeah.
What I can say is my legs and my seat, I feel really comfortable. I haven't had to move or squiddle around.
No.
And I'm sat here on what I call my all-day pace.
Yeah.
And I've been both on the hoods.
Yeah.
And actually, when you come down on the drops, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice.
And I must say, Peter, you've got a lovely back profile.
Yeah.
The shoulder profile's looking really nice. The note of the turbo trainer is very flat. There's no knocking noises coming from the turbo, which means biomechanically you're working efficiently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's one more check.
One more check.
And the one more check is to bring the height of the bars up by another 10 mil. So I guess putting another spacer in.
Indeed.
See what that feels like.
Yeah.
And then compare with this again, because this does feel good.
Yes.
I guess in the back of my head there's an element of, if it's too aggressive, there's no turning back.
Yeah.
Whereas if we put another 10 mil on it, I can, if I want to, have that 10 mil taken off the fork tube and drop it back down again.
You can. It's a big job.
Oh yeah, because it's all integrated.
Because it's all integrated, so it is a big job. But at the same token, you're absolutely right. Once I've trimmed it off, I can't put it back on again. But at the same token, this is why we're spending so much time on the turbo.
Exactly. All right. I'm going to come up. You can make the change. I'll keep my legs spinning.
Yeah.
I didn't realise I was going to get a workout at the same time I came here. This is great.
You're doing absolutely amazing. Okay, so that's a 10 mil raise back up on the saddle again.
Okay, so that feels quite nice actually, but it's really difficult.
Yeah. So what I'm looking at here is your shoulders now have got a little bit more tension in them.
They have.
Yeah. Because we've now reduced the amount of core use.
Yeah.
So now your shoulders have taken a little bit more of that pressure.
Yeah.
However, we're also, by doing that, we're not utilising the core, so they're not going to get as fatigued as quickly on a longer ride.
Yeah.
Don't forget, you've still got the drops. So if you do want to come down further, we've got the drops to go into.
Yeah. Which feel really nice.
Which will feel really good.
The other thing we were saying off camera is the difference in having the right bar width is amazing. And I can really feel it.
Brilliant.
Really feel it.
Yeah.
Because I know when we did my fit, we changed the stem, but we didn't change the bars because it was going to cost a lot of money and I just couldn't afford to do that. So I didn't realise what a difference it would make.
Yeah.
But it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I do feel heavier in my hands in this position.
And you will do.
Can we put it back down again?
We can put it back down again.
It's really difficult to commit to.
Instantly I see we've got less tension in the elbow.
Yeah.
We've got less tension in the shoulder.
Yeah.
The note of the turbo trainer hasn't changed, so we're not running up inside your hip flexion anymore. Everything's looking really, really good.
Yeah.
I think, personally,
Yeah.
if you are concerned, let's run it with the extra 10 mil.
Yeah.
Because on a long endurance ride,
Yeah.
when you're 4, 5, 6 hours in,
Yeah.
and you are feeling tired,
Yeah.
it will potentially just give you a little bit more relief.
Yeah.
And you always have your drops to go into if you want to get lower.
Yeah.
As opposed to going all out aggressive, not only in the hoods, but also in the drops.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. I think that's a sensible way, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like I could sit here all day.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what we're looking for. And one final point on this is that, because some of you viewers will spot this, there'll be the question that's coming back that's saying, well, now you've raised the handlebars back up by 10 mil, are you going to return to the longer crank and the different saddle height again?
Yeah.
And I would say no. I think based on the flexibility in your hip flexion and how the legs are moving at the moment, I want to keep that crank arm length, I want to keep that positioning, but still keep the handlebar height where it is.
Yeah. Sounds like we've got a fit.
We've got a fit. We now need to put all of these X and Y coordinates, plus the crank arm length, bar width, into the computer, and we'll print you off your fit.
Wicked. Now, guys, I know that was a long one, but there was so much good stuff in there.
Yeah.
We will be doing a podcast after this, so I'll put the links below to that.
Yeah.
Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this video. I'll put all the links to Criterium Cycles in the description below, so go and check out their website, follow them on social, and tune in to the next one. I'm going to stop here and get to that camera.
Should we get something to eat?
Tune into the next video, because the next video for me is one I've been really excited about, because we're going to choose the group set, the componentry that's going to go on the bike.
Yeah.
And that for me is so full of engineering and
Yeah.
cool technology and sexy carbon fibre.
Yeah.
And some really exciting things. So that will be the next video on Cycle Sunday. Tune in next week at 6 o'clock on Sunday for the next stage in my dream bike. But we've got a fit.
We've got a fit.
And it feels magnificent. And I know we're in a lucky situation that we're able to kind of build it from the components up.
Yes.
But even some of the decisions, the basic decisions we made today, just about the seat position, seat height, you can do that with any bike.
Indeed.
So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. We'll see you on the next episode of Cycle Sunday. But yeah, I think we deserve a drink. We do beer.
Why not?
Anyway, you guys, take care and ride safe.
Ride safe.